Welcome to Slipstream Shaman, Quantum Healing and Beyond. The primary focus of Slipstream Shaman, Quantum Healing and Beyond is teaching people to use their natural abilities in quantum healing. This is an opportunity to enter the quantum realm and develop your metaphysical gifts, expand your energy to improve your life, your community, the planet, and beyond. In addition to quantum healing, Todd will cover many fun topics such as Bigfoot, UFOs, near-death experiences, ghosts, shadow people, and many others. Todd has a lifelong fascination with alternative healing, consciousness, expansion, and the human potential. Now, your host, Todd Wilcox.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's the last episode of 2022, and what a year it's been. Is it good to be over or bad to be over, or just the normal course of things that it's over? Who knows? Time, as we've learned when we're in the quantum, time doesn't mean anything, and I guess really it doesn't for us either. However, we do put a lot to the time, to the dates, to the years, and so today we're going to do a polymedella. As soon as I get my guest on, we're going to do a polymedella for a New Year reset. And that's going to help us all get ready for the new year and really be prepped and ready to go and have a wonderful new year and hit it hard. So today we're going to be joined by my friend, Brandon Wainwright. He has a book. Let's see if I can put this up the right way. Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide. Brandon and I have talked many times. We work together on different things. He's going to be a lot of fun, and so it's going to be wonderful to have him on the show. I can't wait to talk to him. It's always an easy, fun conversation when we get together, and minutes turn into hours. So I hope everybody's comfortable. And having said that, Brandon or Todd, let's have Brandon come in.
Hiya, Todd and Todd. How's it going? Uh-oh.
And Brandon seems to have had a power outage. There he is.
I thought it was you.
Something's
going on.
Everything's good.
Everything's
hey,
good.
I want to give a shout out to Michelle. She's listening and sent us a comment about she's glad to getting back to normal. So that's wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Michelle. And we're going to have a fun day. Who knows where this is going to go when Brandon and I get together. Just about anything can happen. So there's no script. There's no plan. We're just going to plow through it. Brandon, why don't we take just a minute and have you talk about your book, Tyson's Gift, and just let everybody know what that book's about and what you're about with your energy healing.
All right. Well, my book, Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide.
Froze the internet.
What? Say that again? Todd? Uh-oh.
We're hearing you just barely, Brandon. It might take just a second. You're frozen. You have a very calm and comfortable look on your face.
Well, and, on my end, you're freezing.
As soon as you get moving again, we'll start that up, and I'll just ramble on here for a minute. Oh.
Are we good?
And then I disappeared. So this is going to be a fun show. Hopefully.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
All right. How we doing?
Hey, we're back.
All right.
Great. I'm not sure how far we got with your book, Brandon, but why don't you tell us about your book and the energy?
I don't even think I got the title out.
Again.
Okay. My book is Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide. So it's the story of my dog Tyson's life. Tyson came in to our lives in 2005 and passed away in 2018. And he was a really remarkable dog. Opened my heart. He was he was more like a person than a dog, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But he was a tough egg to crack. He made me really earn his love and open my heart in order to be able to get him to trust me and open up to me. And he helped me to heal a lot of childhood traumas I had involving animals, and it just in general, his whole life was really quite an adventure and full of antics and funny experiences and stories and such. So that's the first half of the book reads a lot like Marley and Me. It kind of tells the story of my life with Tyson, and then the second half of the book is when he passes away, and it describes my spiritual awakening, because up to that point I had struggled with religion, trying to find truth in it and find my way in terms of spirituality / religion. I actually considered the two of them to be synonymous. So I never was able to really make peace with it. And I was okay with that. I'd come to the conclusion that I was never going to know what there was out there, but I thought, or I believed that there was more. I just didn't know what it was. And that was fine until Tyson passed away. I had lost I was 45 when he passed. So I had a number of loved ones who I had lost up to that point. And I had just accepted it as part of life. And, but with Tyson, it was a completely different story, because he was like a combination between a child, a friend, a mentor, a brother, and a really great dog, all mixed into one. And so I really felt the responsibility. He was completely dependent on me, as all animals are, but that bond that we had, really, it was almost more like a child than anything else. And so losing him was really hard. And I realized within a day or two of losing him that I wasn't just coping with the loss, the grief of not having him in my life on a moment-to-moment basis anymore. I was actually coping with, where is he now? Does he still exist? And if he doesn't exist, how is that possible? How could such a rich, beautiful soul no longer exist? It doesn't make sense to me. But yet I had no concrete belief system to focus that on or lean on with regard to that. And so I didn't think I was going to get any answers. Of course, I had tried. I was 45 years old, and nothing had worked up till this point. So I decided to settle for just some comfort. So I ended up going on Amazon and punching in animals and the afterlife. And it turns out there is a book called Animals in the Afterlife. And it turns out there's a book called Animals and the Afterlife, which I read. And it's an autobiographical book written by Kim Sheridan, who's a naturopath. And she's also psychic. And she's had lots of different experiences with animals and human psychic phenomena as well. But she has experience with animal communicators, reincarnation, all kinds of other experiences. Long story short, reading this book, I found it so compelling that I found that either this is true, either there's truth to what she's saying, or she's nuts, or she's just flat out lying. But if there is truth, then it's worth exploring. So I ended up doing my own exploring through animal communication, mediumship, energy healing, you name it. I ended up delving in really deep, and I found in no uncertain terms that we are eternal beings, that we do have a divine nature, that we are actual spirits or souls having an earthly experience rather than earthling or humans occasionally having a spiritual experience. It's the opposite. We're eternal beings, and that's what the book's all about. It tells the whole story. It tells how I awakened. And believe me when I tell you that I'm a natural skeptic, and I certainly was very skeptical as I entered this process. I also should say I'm a former police officer, so that kind of tells you where I was coming from. But the whole idea behind the book is to entertain. Obviously, Tyson was a real character and really cute and a lot of fun stories there. But more than anything, I wrote the book to give people peace with regards to the afterlife and losing a loved one, and also just our spiritual nature. I wrote it to encourage people to delve in on their own and find their own peace. You can find the book if you want to check it out.
Yes.
You can find it at tysonsgift.com. So, and now I have a show just like yours on WLTK-DB.com called the Tyson's Gift Podcast, because everything I do, I just name it after Tyson because it all started with him as far as his connecting with him. I should say I should probably elaborate on that a little bit. With the animal communicators, you could probably deduce this, but I was able to connect with Tyson, and it goes much, much deeper than that. But it all started with him, and I think this was divinely coordinated, and so it only makes sense to name my ministry, if you will, after him. So
yes. And something with the dogs, and we can see a picture of Tyson in the background. When you look at Tyson, when you look at the pictures of Tyson, there is no doubt that there's a spirit behind those eyes. Those eyes are alive. There's an essence to them. There's no question for me when I see a picture like that dogs and cats and other animals do have a future after they pass here. And I have another show, a radio show called My Side of the Universe. And really one of the main notes that I had for doing that was that I wanted to find out. I wanted to talk to people, the pet psychics, the mediums, people that had near-death experiences. I wanted to make sure that they saw dogs and cats and horses and even fish on the other side, because I was quite scared that some of these beautiful dogs that I'd had or known throughout my life weren't going to continue. Many religions, they just don't talk about the pets in the afterlife, the animals in the afterlife, and they're kind of looked down on. So I really didn't have much basis, but talking to people and then doing the work that we do in energy, we know that they're out there. In fact, many of my dogs that I've had in the past come to help me. So yeah, for sure, dogs are there, and I'm glad Tyson came to you for what you needed.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's He's my little savior for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were talking about when you lost him, and you were in your 40s and had lost other people. It's so different, and many times almost harder with a pet when you lose them.
Yeah.
Compared to very people that you're very close with. It's just a different relationship with those pets, and it really pulls something out of you
Yeah.
when you lose them, and you go through it every time, and yet we still go and get another pet, even though that first day that we have them is a countdown to a very sad day, and starts the countdown, and but you just can't be without them. They're wonderful. They're amazing, and a friend of mine says we don't deserve them, and I think she's right. they're way better than we are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, it is definitely, I recently lost a loved one close to me, um, and it's, yeah, it definitely didn't. It's not as painful, I'm not talking about an animal, but a human loved one.
Yeah.
There's something about that because I think the biggest part is because they're innocent.
Yes.
They come into this world. Obviously they're very hardwired with survival instincts, just like we are, but maybe they're much more just kind of deliberate, and they don't have the nuances that that humans, survival instincts have. Not as much many dimensions to it, but they also they come with pure intent. Most of them,
Yeah.
their intention is to survive and to love. And I think that's pretty much it. Love their animal friends and their human friends, and so there's that innocence, that purity that you naturally feel a need and I guess an instinct or even a duty to protect.
Yes.
But it's also it's the fact that they are so dependent on you, and there, but I think more than anything, it's just the purity and the innocence. I think that's it. But again, you know, they, like you're saying, when their body passes, that's not the end. That's the end of their physical earthly body. That's it. They continue to exist just like we do. And
Yes. And
it's not something it's something to mourn, of course, because you no longer have them in your day-to-day life, and that's painful as hell. But but the reality is that they still are aware of you. They still can connect to you, and in much, in most cases, most people, they're a lot more aware that they're connected to you than the person is that they're connected to the animal still, right? Um,
yeah.
so it's not really, you take that out of it, you take the tragedy out of it. That's what, when Tyson passed away, it felt to me like a tragedy, because it was this beautiful creature, this beautiful soul was no longer with me, and it felt tragic. It was like,
Sure.
I don't know how to process this. It just, but the simple fact is that he just transitioned. He wasn't gone, but.
Yeah.
But the experiences, I had to go through the experiences that I outline in the book in order to realize that, to really understand that. And so when I wrote by writing the book, obviously I wanted to share my story and memorialize Tyson, and honor him. But what I hoped to accomplish with it was to share the story, give people peace, but also to inspire them to hopefully go on their own journey and find these truths out for themselves. Which, I think a lot of people that tune into your show and my show and a lot of the shows on WLTK-DB, they have that in their consciousness. They know in no uncertain terms that that's the truth. But a lot of people, they might say they do, but they don't really have a concrete concept in their mind or their heart of of what the afterlife is or what our divine nature is. A lot of people have what society has told them is the truth, whether what their church has told them. And I'm not knocking those concepts. I'm just saying that a lot of times those are abstract ideas that don't necessarily have a tangibility in people's minds other than an idealism. Whereas if you go through the process of exploring it yourself and you actually have experiences with these things, with the afterlife, and not in a dark way, in a way of light, the peace that it brings and the certainty that it brings, you can't know how cool it is until you've experienced it, really.
Yeah. Brandon, I have a question for you about pets and truly all animals. What do you think? Do you think there's a difference in their spirit, in their essence, than there is for a human? Do you think they're different types of spirits, or just a variant of what spirit energy is? How do you think the animals fit into the whole thing?
Well, I don't pretend to know for sure, but I always, my instinct has always been that they are just as much, they have just as much value and just as much power, and they're just as much an actual distinct entity or spirit as a human is. That's always been my instinct. I've heard, I've actually been taught from spiritual teachers that I study under that they actually come from a holy monad. Just like we all come from a monad, right? But there's different layers to it. But that they have a group consciousness. That different animals, different species of animals have a group consciousness, and maybe there's some truth to that. I really don't know for sure, but I don't think anybody really has a clear understanding of it. Because, for example, one of the people that taught me that concept, I went to them because Tyson and I have had numerous, well, probably many lives together, I would say at this point. And, different, that included in that is different species of dog, one medium told me that a life that we had together, and this was really poignant to me because I actually had visions of that life before she described it to me, which was right during my awakening too. So I knew this really resonated with me. But in that life, Tyson was a medium-sized dog. Well, in this life, as the dachshund Chihuahua that he was only 8 pounds. So he clearly wasn't the same species that he had been before, right? So if they come from a holy monad, that's, each species has a monad, not just every dog, regardless of species, is in this monad. That's not how it was taught to me. It was that different species are, have different group consciousnesses. And so I said, well, how could it be then if my dog is reincarnated and in one life he was one species and in the other life he was another species? How is that possible if he was only a part of one group consciousness? Doesn't make sense. And so I asked him about that, and he, to his credit, he's honest. He said, gets this look on his face, cringes up his eyebrows. He says, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. But yeah, so I don't know. I think. What'd you say?
It's a big question, and sometimes I wonder if animals are evolving towards something. Have we already been animals and we've evolved to where we are, or is it the other way around? Or are we evolving towards being an animal, or to something else? Or is it just different types of energy, different types of spirit? It's one of those questions that's very hard to answer. I know that I absolutely adore dogs, and I like cats quite a bit, but there's just something magic about the dogs, and I feel like that maybe they are more evolved than we are.
Yeah, I think I think I've heard different ideas about this. I've heard, as a human, you're a human and you evolve as a human. And then maybe you go into a higher consciousness once you've had all your incarnations and you learned all the lessons that you're supposed to have as a human. I've also heard, maybe you've jumped back and forth between being a human and an animal, and you've maybe been an extraterrestrial of some species mixed in there with it. I don't know. I don't think anybody really truly has all the answers. And I'm okay with that. I don't think it's realistic, at least at this stage of the game, in our involvement, that you're going to have those answers definitively. It's not
right.
And I think that's one of the things about, for me, organized religion that's always been a challenge for me was that how could they know all this, and why is it so simplistic? Doesn't seem like it would be that simple. And not that it needs to be complicated, but these things awfully seem, they carry all the structures of a regular old, male dominated society. I don't think heaven would necessarily follow all those, all those different, models. My friend pointed out that I'm saying species, and maybe what I mean was breed. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's
okay.
That's breed of so German Shepherd versus Dachshund or Chihuahua or that sort of thing. They're all canines, but which breed. So yeah, I really don't think anybody knows for sure.
No, but it's fun to talk about, and we don't know. There will come a day where I hope we know. When we transition, when we move to the next step, I hope all of that becomes clear. And maybe it's one of those things we talk about forgetting when we come here. Maybe we already know all those answers, but we're not allowed to access them while we're here.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I think each incarnation, you go through that veil of forgetfulness or whatever you call it. And
yes,
and because if you didn't, the lessons that you're learning here wouldn't really be lessons that you would have.
Right. Yeah.
Clarity.
And then we've got a young lady named Michelle on with us that's giving us some notes. And hi, Michelle. I wasn't sure if you heard me earlier. We were having a lot of computer trouble at the time, but thank you for being here, Michelle. And you've also typed in Coral Green and Leanne Whip. So I guess they might be with you. Thanks to all of you, and just wanted to say hi to everybody. So thank you all of you that type in and give us notes. Yeah, good time. And with Tyson, was that when you really started your energy work after you went through the process with Tyson and started your search? Is that when you got the idea for the energy work, or was that before?
Yeah, I mean, when I going through, the initial steps that I took after being so compelled by that book and the concept of life after actually having, like, I guess it shows you how little I'd been exposed to, but I'd never had, read such concrete evidence of the reality of this stuff, right? I thought it was just ideas and people saying, I think that maybe there's that and there's that, this and that, but I'd never actually read it in such concrete terms. So once that triggered me into, or started me into working with the animal communicators and mediums, and the experiences that I had with them were off the hook incredible, which those are talked about in the book, and it proved to me in no uncertain terms our divine nature, and that there was more, and that of course just is like, well, there's no turning back now. I can't turn back now. This is like, I'm a changed man, my whole, I'll never be the same. And so I was looking for ways to open. I was looking for ways to tap into my own, spiritual, psychic, metaphysical abilities. And a friend of mine had just learned Reiki, had taken the first level of Reiki, and suggested that maybe I try that as a next step. And so I did. And that was my entry into energy healing. I was drawn to being a healer though too. That was like one of those things where it was just instinctive, something I wanted to do,
Yes.
which isn't, being, I did lots of jobs before that where I kind of was of service. I was a personal trainer, as a police officer. So I'm drawn to that helper type of jobs. But I looked at Reiki as an opportunity to open. And so I did, and then working with the energy, seeing not just, I think, the Reiki, I recommend to anybody who's trying to have it, it's opening up with this stuff, because it's very simple. It gives you very concrete ways of applying it, and how, protocols, if you will, on how you do it. Which somebody like me, I definitely needed that structure in the beginning, because even though I believed and saw the power of it, I still was skeptical. I was especially skeptical of my own ability to be able to do it. Trusting that actually took a long time. Even after I started doing it, even after I had many remarkable healings, I still had trouble trusting. And I guess that's something that we all struggle with continuously. I don't think you ever quite get over that. Even you have it, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. Without question. And you said something very interesting there about the structure. And for me, I am so much better in a place of no structure than I am in a place of structure. I don't know if that's my core energy says, I need the not the chaos, but the no structure, or if it's, if I have any kind of boundary, I struggle with it. The example was when I was in the Marines. I was a very good shot, and they wanted me to be a sniper. And I asked them, "Tell me about it." And you go to training, and the whole training revolves around you being able to hide, concealed, and slowly move to take one shot. And to pass it, you had to go 100 yards in 3 days with nobody seeing you and make a shot. And I said, 100 yards in 3 days. So what do you have like in the helicopters where you just go, ah? That was more me, no structure, just reacting to things. There was no way I was going to take 3 days to move 100 yards. I don't have it in me. I don't even think I could do that once. So so I'm wondering if it's just the way energy, that our energy is, or the way we feel our energy, because to me, the structures really are a hindrance, where the structures help you along. So I'm just, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but they're certainly different. And I think that might even be why we work well together, because we combine the two.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't say that I'm entirely somebody that's in need of structure. I in this particular case, I needed a procedure to follow, because I think if I didn't have it, I would have really questioned whether or not, like, I knew Reiki worked. I'd seen evidence of that, from other people. But if you don't, when you're trying to get over the skepticism, having that structure to follow, you do this, and then it'll work. If you don't, the thing is, for me, because I was skeptical, if I didn't follow the procedure, I would have been much more inclined to question the results. If that makes sense.
Which we do. We question our results
absolutely.
like crazy.
Now much less so. I actually, as over time, it proves itself to you. And I even had one of my Reiki teachers, she said she wanted to coin a Reiki method called No Rules Reiki, because it is so because they're all, you do these symbols and blah blah blah, and her and her husband, they taught together. They're much more open with it and free, and it was hard for me to wrap my brain around initially, but I think the structure is there. One, probably because it's Japanese, right? Very structured. That's where it came from. So it's got that origin. But I think that is the advantage, though, is that for somebody that that is compelled, just speaking from my own experience, somebody that's compelled by what they've seen and heard, but they don't know how to tap in necessarily. They don't know how to feel that energy yet. They don't know how to let go of their skepticism. And it kind of gives you a way to
Yes.
bridge that gap a little bit, you know. And I over
Yeah.
time, you know, I've learned other methods where there's none of that. You just think the intention and do it, and it goes.
Yeah.
But it would have been much harder for me when I first started to wrap my brain
Yeah.
around the idea that could work. Not necessarily like for you. I might think, oh yeah, I believe that. But for me, I would say, you can't do something like that. That's not, you know,
It's a weird thing, and we've talked about it many times. We're doing things and helping people and helping animals, and we're thinking, well, was it us or was it something else? Was it us or was it the medicine? Was it us or was it this? And eventually, enough coincidences stack up that we have to say we were a part of it. We definitely played our part, and I can see where having that structure, that guide, would really speed that process up. It certainly would have sped up my belief. As you're saying that it was ringing true, it would have sped it up for me as well, because I was just making it up as I went, and maybe not even making it up, maybe just maybe the universe was giving me bits and pieces as I went, so that I could use it. So I don't know. It's one of those chicken or the eggs. Did I cause this, or did I find it? Was I guided to it? Was I meant to be a part of this? It's really hard to say what all that, how it all fits.
I definitely think that it's probably a little bit of both. You know, I think it all works together. Different things coming into play. When some of the things that have happened recently that I brushed them aside, which I should have spent more time noodling on them when they happen. But I've had quite a few situations where I was doing a distance healing, whether Reiki or other modalities, and I get images from the person's energy field while I'm sending to them, and I'm not particularly clairvoyant, but I'll get flashes of images, and like I've seen. The first time it happened, I think it was a person I do Reiki share with, and I saw her daughter while I was working on her. I still haven't ever met her daughter or seen any pictures of her daughter. Actually, she might have sent me a picture after that, but at that time, I had never seen any image. And when I see images, I don't see them real clear. They're kind of blurry. I know for some people that are really gifted in clairvoyance, they see them like a real sharp picture, even a movie sometimes. But for me, it's more of a blurred image. And so I've had that happen many times when I'm doing healings. And at this point, I actually intentionally tune in and get images. So an perfect example is I was working on Todd the other day, our glorious producer, Todd Bates. And while I was working on him, what I do is I ask for any messages for their highest good. That's what I put out there. And then I just kind of, my superpower, which many people have this, but this is one that's particularly strong for me is channeling energy through my hands. And so I can do that without too much effort. So while I'm doing that, I just kind of blank my mind out, think of a blank screen, and then see if anything pops in. And while I was working on Todd, I got this image of what I thought was a bulldog with black markings sitting right in front of me, looking at me. And it wasn't super clear, but it was clearly a dog that looked a lot like a bulldog. So when I was done working on him, I asked him if that made any sense. And he told me that 5 years ago, he lost his dog, it was a white pit bull with black markings. A pit bull and a bulldog are similar looking, especially if they're blurry, right? And so I'm pretty sure that I'm confident that what I saw was his dog. And I felt that what his dog was trying to let him know that he was still with him and loved him. And when Todd told me that his death has haunted him because he wasn't there for it. I'm not sure why, but he wasn't able to be there when he passed. And so not only was that a situation where it brought peace, but the reason I'm saying it in this context is that by examples like that, it's the only way that could happen is if you're connected to the person on an energetic level, right?
Yes.
And so if you're connecting to somebody on an energetic level and you're sending them energy and they're having a benefit from it, well, what's the most obvious reason for that? It's the energy you're sending them, right? And you have evidence that there was a connection. So
yes.
That's why, it took I don't know why it didn't occur to me to think of it in those terms when I first started seeing. I guess I was still skeptical. Isn't that crazy? You see it, you get confirmation from the person, and you still are skeptical.
Yeah.
But it's happened to me enough times now to where I don't really question anymore. Like yesterday, I did a healing on a client who I've had a number with her, but I got an image of a tree, like a big trunked tree, but not real tall, just like a big fat trunk with branches that kind of stemmed up from, I don't know, just a few feet up, and then huge branches with big green, right? This is the image that I got. And so I told her about it, and I'm gonna put this up in front so you can see what I'm talking about, because she sent me an image of it. Bring it up here. Oh, where are you? Here I am. Great radio time, huh? Maybe I'll just.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Yes. While you're searching for that. Oh, there we go.
See the.
Okay.
See the tree? Yeah. Big fat, and that was, I get this image, and I tell her about it, and she says, "Oh wow," she says, "I made that my screensaver just yesterday." Right. And so I'm guessing that she was probably sitting in front of the computer when I did the healing on her. I'm guessing because that same lady, a couple of weeks ago when I was working on her, I saw eggs, like sunny side up eggs. And when I talked to her, she said that while I was working on her, she was making eggs. So, and then I also saw a dark wooded hope chest in her. I just saw this hope chest, and then I saw like orange yarn, and blanket, like with orange blanket with yellow or orange yarn in it. Turns out that she has a dark hope chest with a blanket inside that matches that description.
I'll tell you, those, random events like that, just, for you to just throw out a thought, hoping it sticks, the chances of you being accurate are so small.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about, the shape of that tree or the eggs or the hope chest with the right color thing. So, you're really, again, maybe it's a coincidence, but it has to really help with the skepticism when you're seeing those kind of things, which is very powerful. That, that's a remote viewing technique, and it's very powerful. And you're doing it spontaneously. Have you done any remote viewing training?
No, I just ask for, I've done like channeling training at Delphi, at Delphi University where I go to school, but not specifically remote viewing. But I just, I ask Spirit to give me this information for the highest good. And that's where, that's how it happens. And, each one of these things, I would probably, if it was a one and done, I would probably be skeptical still, but when it happens over and over and over and over again, and it, it's like, okay, there's something to this. And if there is something to that, why, then clearly there's a connection being made. And if there's a connection being made, then clearly energy can be transferred. And And we're connected. I mean, we know this. We know
Yes.
about oneness. But when you see the physical evidence like that, you know, for those of us peons, you know, that aren't that aren't that psychic, because I
Yes.
know people that can, you know, I'm sure there's people listening to this right now that are super psychic that can do all this stuff
Sure.
no problem. Like this is like real basic for them. But for
Yeah.
people that, you know, that are maybe recently went through their awakening or they're growing in this, to have those affirmations is really powerful and brings a lot of peace and
It
understanding.
it changes the way you feel. It almost like changes the air around you. You're When you have something like that happen, you can feel it in your body, you can feel it around you. There's it's like that confirmation you allowed that energy to flow that way now. When you get that confirmation, you're like, okay, I believe it. It's got to be there, and it changes your psyche. It changes your energy. It changes your spirit, or gets you closer to your true spirit.
Yeah.
One of those things, and so it's always magic to me, and it never gets old. Every time I get those really high coincidence like that, it gives me goosebumps, and I love hearing about the ones you just described because
Yeah.
I can kind of live through that.
Yeah. The key, what I found to be the common theme, well, actually two common themes, but one of them specifically related to this is trust. You know, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, learning how to trust in your own ability and trusting in spirit to deliver you and, you know, to connect to you, and it is a big deal. And it's one of those things that takes time to develop, I think. Particularly, I think if you're honestly, I think for guys it's harder because
Mm.
we don't tend to go with our feelings as much. We're trained not to. Um, and I think there's some difficulty there. But with that trust, because, you know, it doesn't, I think I know people that are like ultra powerful mediums and they like just blow my mind. And even they sometimes struggle with it. Uh, and so, but that concept, the concept of trust, I think is key. And then the other idea or just reality, feeling, if you will, is love. I think with each of these things, when you do these healings, when you do these connections, coming from a place of love and for the person's highest good, and loving them as a fellow soul, you know, in this realm, I think the connection that you create with them is it's of a higher frequency and probably more accurate, you know, more true,
Yes.
and easier to trust when you come at. And that's something that I've been in my journey, you know, because I've continued on. There was Reiki was my first step, but I've continued on with more advanced healing modalities, and some of them really have challenged me to open my heart, because in order to be effective at them, you have to open your heart, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and which of course applies to all of them, but there's some where it's specific to that. And so that's been a very poignant development for me in my journey, is to really connect with that love space. I think everybody, I know you feel this way, but you know, when you're doing this stuff, you're doing it out of love. You're doing it in an effort to really help somebody. But there's a difference between, you know, I know for me, and I can't speak for you on this, but I'm guessing, as a guy, when I first started doing healings, I genuinely wanted to help these people, but it was more of a like, okay, I'm doing this to help them, and I feel good about helping them, and I'm helping them, and I'm, you know, and I'm channeling the energy, and I'm moving, and it's effective. I'm having good results with it. But what I found is when I can really tap into that love energy, it just makes it more powerful, and it makes it more
Yes.
enjoyable for me. And I think, you know, and better for them. But it's, and I think it raises you spiritually, you know, it brings you closer to what matters and all that good stuff. But it's not easy. It's one of those things that you really have to kind of get out of your own way to do that. And I think for men in particular, it's very difficult.
I have to agree with that. It's the hardest part for me, and that's why I ask for, just a bare minimum amount of information from people. It's because it's hard for me to get out of my own way. I start wanting to interpret. I start wanting to make things, to push things, and it's really best when I just get out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I agree with you 100%, because I've done. Typically, when I do a healing, especially if I'm doing it on a professional level, I have my whole procedure that I go through with the candles and the smudging and all all that stuff. And I'm very deliberate when I'm sending the energy. But there's been times where I'm like, somebody asked me for a healing, and I'm like, I just need to shut down. I don't have time to focus right now. So I'll go and I'll get my surrogate, which I'll get a teddy bear to send through, let's say. And I'll get in front of the television and start watching Seinfeld. But I'm also moving the energy. I'm consciously moving the energy. I set an intention. I set it with love. But then after that, mostly occasionally I think about think about that intention again for a second, remember what you're doing. But I just keep consciously moving the energy and then laugh my butt off at Seinfeld. And some of my most powerful healings have been done that way, believe it or not. And that's, not even thinking about, let spirit take care of it. You're just channeling anyway. So
I don't know if you can see that, but
Newman.
I've got Seinfeld on right now. I needed extra light. It's fairly dark where I'm at, so I've got the TV on, to give some light hitting me, and it just happens to be on Seinfeld. Funny you should say, another one of those coincidences.
It's a great show.
Yeah. You just brought up something. You talked about your surrogate in the second Slipstream Shaman book that I'm getting just about finished. Instead of calling it a surrogate, I call it an avatar, but it's doing the same thing you're talking about. I was exhausted and somebody needed a healing. So I set up another part of me that could stay focused because I was not in a place where I could do it. And so I set up another part of me that could do it, that did the healing for that person. And it kind of took me down a whole nother trail.
Oh my gosh.
Surrogate's a great way to call it. I've been using avatar, and maybe there's an even better word. I'll have to think about it, but virtually the same thing that you talked about. I just didn't have the energy, didn't have the capacity at that moment to help, but they needed help. And that was how I found to do it.
Wow. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
it's
pretty
funny
cool.
you say that. Wow. And how did you come up with that? How did you find the surrogate?
Oh, well, when I learned distance Reiki, that they suggested that we use a teddy bear or something, where you basically, when you tap in, you just say, okay, we'll set the intention. This is the person. And then you work on them. And it's amazing how, you can feel what's going on through the surrogate. Yeah, it's that's another thing. I was skeptical of that for a long time. I was like, are you kidding me? Come on. I'm holding the teddy bear, for criminy sake. But again, you do it enough times and it's accurate.
Yeah.
And
and
we're all connected. It's for reals.
And there's just times where you can't do it. You just don't have you're just not there, and you need to have Seinfeld or close your eyes or whatever the case is. And it's wonderful to have that kind of a backup. And that's funny. I had not heard of that. Other people.
Well,
doing that.
when I say surrogate, so when I do distance healing, generally speaking, that's how I do it. Is with a surrogate. So I when I say surrogate, I mean that I have, like, actually I'll even show you. Okay. So this is my sex doll. No, just kidding.
Tell me where the bad man touched you.
No, don't touch you. So this is actually, it's I think it's, can't remember if they called it a Reiki. I found this online. It's actually a person in Oregon that makes these custom. But it's got all the chakras on it,
All the chakras,
and it's got, it's not anatomically 100% correct, but it's got all the different parts, regions of the body, right? And so I'll use this as a surrogate. So I will work on the doll,
okay,
as if they're the person, and it actually works 100%. I can feel what's going on in the person through the doll. And if that sounds far-fetched to you, I don't blame you, because I wouldn't have believed it either. But that's how it works, and that's how I was taught to do it with Reiki. And you can use a teddy bear. But if you're in a pinch, you can also, like, a lot of times I'll use my knees or my thighs. I'll just send it through my thighs and let. But my point for the Seinfeld story was that, I wasn't, when I'm working with the doll, for example, or typically, if I'm really focused and being really deliberate about everything, I am totally focused on what I'm doing with the healing. But in this case with the Seinfeld show, I was consciously moving the energy. And I set a conscious intention of what I wanted to do for the person, or how I wanted to help them, or wanted spirit to help them, rather, because it's not me anyway. But at the beginning of it, but once I did that, once I set the intention and started moving the energy, in terms of my left brain and what I was mentally focused on, I was focused on Seinfeld. And my spirit still had the intention of wanting to help the person, but I wasn't like, help them, like, and thinking about it, focused on that sole purpose. I was focused on watching Seinfeld, and then I was multitasking, if you will, but it was just as powerful. So that, I think that just proves my point that one, we're connected. Two, spirit's doing the work.
Yes.
And so I'm channeling and I'm setting an intention, but really they're the one. Spirit's the one that's actually going to the person and doing the healing. So you don't have to be, when you were talking about sometimes you need to get out of your own way. That's like the hardest part, is getting out of your own way. Well, that's an example of it. You really don't need to be in your own way. You don't necessarily need to be putting so much of your focus and self into it. I think that's more about our need to feel like we accomplished.
Yes.
And I still do it. I still do it because, especially when I'm doing a paid one, I don't feel good about charging somebody for a healing when I'm not totally focused on them. But the reality is that spirit's doing the work. Your intention and your love, setting that intention, is more powerful probably than all that focus that you could put it on. That said, I think you're probably more aware of what's going on with the person and perceiving where the energy's going and that sort of thing. You're probably a little more focused and taking it in if you're being more deliberate. But I've had really powerful ones go that way. So even driving.
Talk about intent and
even driving. I remember when I was a cop, I had a lady at one of our parks ask me for a healing. And I said, and she said, I know you don't have a lot of time. I said, no problem. I'll do it. So I did the healing while I was driving back to the station. I was in bumper to bumper traffic in the Bay Area for like an hour. And the whole time I just kept sending energy. I set the intention, and she had a remarkable healing from that. So
that is amazing. That is amazing. And that intent, you talk about that. And I can remember and it's been over 20 years ago. I was in a neuro-linguistic programming training class, and we had a shaman come in, and he was showing his methods, and I don't remember what he did. I think he used a lot of smoke, different like smudges, smoke, those kind of things were his main thing to help him focus. But somebody asked him, so how does the healing work? When does it happen when you're healing somebody? And he says, the healing takes place as soon as I set the intent. Once they have the intent between the healer and the healee, that's when it actually takes place. And what we're doing is, after that, is making it stronger, making it last longer, keeping it in place. But the actual healing starts the second everybody makes the intent.
Yeah. Because thoughts are actual
I love
things.
that. Mm-hmm. And intent is powerful. We have another listener named Sue that joined us. Thank you, Sue. It's wonderful seeing people that are typing stuff in, and many people haven't learned how to do the whole Facebook thing. Facebook put some new rules in, so we can't always see your name. But Michelle and Sue have figured that out, so good for you. And I wish I could tell everybody. And so it looks like we're going to we're time for a break. Todd's letting us know that we're going to do that. And so go ahead, Todd, take us away, but we'll be back with more Brandon Wainwright on Slipstream, Shaman, Quantum Healing, and Beyond.
Brandon Wainwright, author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, and owner of Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, offers Reiki as well as color and sound modalities to anyone seeking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. While color and sound healing, a technique that brings balance and health to one's chakras and body, must be provided in person. Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, can be given in person or equally effectively from a distance. For more information or to make an appointment for a session, please visit TysonsGiftHealing.com. That's TysonsGiftHealing.com.
Well, that was an excellent commercial, and very appropriate for what we're doing. Hey, I would like to do something now that we're back from the break, and you and I have talked a little bit about polymedella, and that's a mini healing that I do, and it can be for a couple different things. It can be a bunch of different people that need that need to hear something, or there could be a big group that's ready for something. And what I would like to do a polymedella on today is, we're getting close to the change of the new year, and people like to do a reset. And so, Brandon, if we can, like we've done in the past, if you can just send us energy,
I lost you there.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
Hey, look at that. We're back.
Yeah.
I guess we threw too much energy at the internet and blew it up again. But what I was hoping to do, Brandon, is if we could do a polymedella, and I will just go to what people will see and hear is what it looks like when I'm doing my healing work. And if you would just focus your energy, channel your energy to me and to all the people listening now, listening into the future, and just really pour that energy in like you do when we work together, I would appreciate it. And I'll do a polymedella that might last us 5 to 10 minutes. Would you be interested in that?
Yeah. So you're just going to have the audience sit there and look at you?
No, I'll be talking. Yeah, as fun as that would be, I'll be talking. You, on the other hand, will probably just be sitting there being looked at, unless do you make sounds while you're sending energy?
I do breathing. Yeah.
So. Okay. So they'll get to hear you breathe, and I will talk as I go. I'll describe what I'm seeing.
Maybe I'll mute it
when I do this.
Maybe I'll mute my breathy breathing.
Yeah. So for those of you that can see this is a request for a healing that I got, and then here's my notes about what was happening. And so instead of writing the notes during this polymedella, I'll just talk through the notes. And if Brandon can give us the warp charge and the extra power of his energy, I think it'll be even more effective for everybody. So, that sound good, Brandon? All right.
Yeah, sounds good. But I am going to mute myself because I'll be thinking too much about them hearing my breathing, and I'll just.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and do that. That's fine. And I'll just be talking, kind of describing what I'm doing. So when I start out, I'm bringing my hands together, and I'm accessing my energy. And I'm bringing my energy together. And what my energy looks like, it started out as a light blue. It has since turned into something that looks like this. That's on the cover of my book. It looks very similar to that, like a sparkler or light coming through a big diamond. And that's what I'm picking up on. I cover my body with it, and then I go to my quantum room where I do the actual work. And I'm in my quantum room now, and I'm going to ask some of my high-level guides to join me and help me with this. And what I'm asking for, and those of you that are listening and watching, if you're not driving, you might want to close your eyes or just really put yourself into the moment, really accept the energy that Brandon's sending out, that I'm sending out. And we're going to look at what the reset for 2023 is going to look like for us. And I don't know what's going to come to me. I'm just going to invite 2023, the reset of 2023 to come to me. And what I'm seeing is a large kind of a shadow shape of a person, spiky on the edges. And that's what's representing itself as the change for 2023, our reset. Where do we want to go? Do we want to have more love in our lives, to share our energy, to change our direction, to move from a job that sucks our energy to a job or a career that feeds us and energizes us. And that's what this thing that came to the quantum room is representing, is that reset. As we're looking at this, I'm just looking around for anything obvious. I personally look for anything that I call a parasite or a companion. Nothing jumps out to me. My dog Desi, who helps with all these things, Desi passed away quite a few years ago, but she is the main searcher on these things, and she may pull something from this shadow for next year that helps make things clearer. And she's sniffing around. And she's moving something that looks like just red energy right from the center, right from the heart, where the heart would be on this entity, and moving it out. And what we're going to do now is just give it energy. I'm going to send it energy to clean that red energy up. And then I have another team that helps me that's just going to fill it full of love. So we're going to send love to that energy after we've debrided it, we've made it ready. And that red energy has changed to something that looks like yellow and white energy. Still basically the same shape, just changed colors. And we're going to put that back, and it's going back to where it was, right where your heart chakra would be. And we'll ask Brandon about that color-wise, if that meant anything once we're done here. As that new energy is in this shadow that we've got, it becomes more defined. And what it looks like to me is people, many people flashing through. I see many different faces, all kinds of faces, white faces, black faces, Asian, Hispanic, all kinds of faces are showing up. Instead of just a shadow, now I'm seeing lots and lots of faces. And the overall shape that came in has gone from a very dark gray to a light, almost brown as this heart energy changed. And Desi's not finding anything else that we need to look at. So what I'm going to do now is a full energy cleanse on this representation of 2023, the reset that we're going to go through, the way that we're all going to change. And as I'm doing this, see if you're feeling anything on you. You might feel something in your chest, or the air around you may change, or you may feel cool. My energy feels very cool to the touch. And so I'm going to start at the top of this energy shape with my energy, and we're going to be cleaning everything that helps me. The different dogs that help me, we're all cleaning. We use a beautiful cleaning fluid. We're going from top to bottom on this shape, cleaning the inside and the outside, cleaning it all up. And now we're going to go through and just do a single line of healing energy across it. From the top of its head, we're going to slowly work our way down. And as we go through each section, its head, its neck, its chest, its arms, its feet, its hands, everything, it's going to be changing. That energy is going to activate. The cleansing fluid that we put in there is going to activate and just clean that energy, get that energy flowing well. Are you feeling a change in your energy right now? Are things flowing better through you? Are you breathing easier? Has the temperature around you changed? I can feel at least a 5, maybe a 10 degree drop in the temperature right now where I'm at since the time we started this. And we're just prepping this energy, this construct that is the reset for us of 2023 and how our lives will be changed. More love, more energy, working towards purpose. Have we found our purpose? And if you have, what are you doing to work towards that? And if you haven't, what's your next step? Purpose is so important. One of the things I found through the meditation that I do in the Slipstream Shaman process is that I'm actually able to meditate and bring things to me. And that was where I found my purpose. And my purpose is to help. 2 words, to help. What is your purpose? We're going to go all the way through. This representation of 2023, the reset, is now a much lighter color. It's almost like a floating, it's still a human shape, but it's kind of a floating cloud now. Very light color. And energy doesn't, light energy is not necessarily better than a dark energy. It's just the color that you see. So don't worry if what your energy color is. Any color is great. Multiple colors are great. Flashing, strobing colors are great. Steady colors are great. Whatever your color is, it is. There's nothing wrong with any of them. They're all special to us. And we're just going to let all that energy go out. That 2023 construct is going out to everybody and being shared. And Brandon's energy is helping. And as Brandon's ready to come back, he can come back whenever he is ready. And we can just feel that change. So Brandon, for me, while we were doing that, I've felt a huge temperature change, and then also a difference in the air. Just the way the air feels on my skin, and the way I'm. Did you notice any changes while we were doing that?
Not in temperature, but I noticed that the energy became more powerful. I felt it. Actually kind of felt it not just in my hands, but like a little bit in my arms too.
Yeah.
And as far as color, what came to mind color was first it was what you said about the yellow and white. That was more or less the color that I was blasting with of light. But it became it evolved into more of a white, like a baby blue.
Oh.
Like a real light blue color.
Okay. Yeah. And so the idea of that is just to give that life, that energy, that what's going to be 2023 for us, giving us a big healing, getting ready for it, ready to accept it, making the energy right for us, and so we can move into it and really take advantage of it in a good way. Usually when you say take advantage of something, it's bad, but take advantage of the good that's part of that change.
The other thing that I saw was, and I tried to just kind of do the typical thing where I asked for any messages, and I got, first it was a beach ball, and
Okay.
And then a giant like beach blanket, like a quilt, like quilted together, which
Okay.
to me meant maybe more cohesion, more community. I don't know. That was what jumped into my head. So
yeah, and that community, that was one of the exciting things about the pandemic, was there was a major reset. We spent more time with family. We spent more time together, not necessarily with big family, but the family in the home. We were doing things that we typically hadn't done. Instead of racing from event to event to event, we were staying home, getting to know each other again. And I think there was a big reset during that, and there's a reset that continues to go. And I would like to see that really just travel through all of us and really push that consciousness development to where we get to a better place. I think there's a much better place for all of us out there than where we are now, and it's something that we're going to build.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think there's a lot of shifts that are going to be happening in terms of our world, just in terms of the systems of our world, and information that's going to come out regarding the systems of our world, whether it be businesses, government. I think there'll be a lot revealed I don't know about all in 2023. I kind of hope it does,
Yes.
but I think that's coming, and I think that is going to cause a shift. And hopefully, maybe not initially, it might be a little bit harsh for some people, but I think in the long run, it's going to really bring about a much more cohesion amongst men and women and children,
Right. Yeah. Humanity.
amongst everybody.
Yeah. And I sometimes have people get after me about this, but I would like to see us more homogenized. I would like there to be, I would like to, as much as I love differences in people, and I think that really builds a strong team is the difference in people, I would also like to see us more similar.
Yeah.
So that we get past all the, we stop thinking about our differences and thinking about how we can help each other. And the more similar we become, the more similar we talk to each other, and the more similar that we expect people. I think that will speed things up. And I do love differences. I build teams based on differences, but it's also differences that can get us to a better place. But having said that, I do think that the easier it is for us to like each other.
You kind of broke
I
there
think
for a sec.
there needs to be more. Yeah, I was just saying that the more alike we are, the more we tend to like each other. And so I would really like to see us all becoming. We talk about oneness, and as much as I love the differences in people and talk about the differences, I think we need to really start focusing on how we're the same, because when we do boil it all the way down, we are made out of the exact same stuff. It doesn't matter how tall we are or the color of our skin, where we live, where we grew up. We're made out of the same exact material. So it's for us to be fighting over little things. Just we need to get past that and really look at those small things that are the same in us.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you 100%. I just think that what's going to bring that about will be an awakening, an awakening of the structure that we're used to, like I said, whether government, commerce, you name it, all those things with the way things are now, we have, I don't know if I'd call it a luxury, but we have the ability to segregate and from each other, and I think there may be a crisis that precipitates all this. It might be, at least on its surface, it might look like something very, very dark, or just a big change, which change is difficult for people in general, even if it's a good change. But I think it was something like that could really cause people to, where we have to rely on each other, where you no longer can be separated. You have to see your oneness. You have to see your similarities before your differences. Seeing your differences is going to be detrimental at that point.
Yes.
As opposed to being, because I honestly think for a certain segment of society, seeing our differences and capitalizing on that, I think there's been a lot of incentive for that. The political class, for example, the media, the universities, really, capitalizing on people's differences, whether it be their skin color, their socioeconomic status, whatever it is. And it's not, it hasn't helped anything. That's for sure. All it's done is hurt us and make us weaker, as a society, as a country. I hope it's nothing too catastrophic, but I think it's something happening that could, make us to incentivize coming together is going to be critical. I just don't know what that'll be. What I would say, though, is that when I think it's inevitable, I think something like this is coming. And when it does, I'm just part of this as everybody else. And I have I'm certainly nervous about it.
Yes.
But that said, I also think that, that in the long run, it's going to be for the best for everybody, and to try to focus on that as much as possible. Focus on the fact that this has some real big silver linings to it. As far as humanity is concerned, so far as our spiritual connection with one another, and for the betterment of the world. I think there's a lot of real strong points that are going to come with it. But like anything else, when you have big change, it's scary, man.
Scary and can be painful. It's just like birth. That is not easy for the baby or for the mom, and but so worth it afterwards. And so they're like you said, there's probably some pain coming our way as we go through this change, because it is scary and it's different. It takes a little bit to get used to, but just many times there's pain associated with that, but we'll get through it and be much stronger on the other side, and we'll get through it much faster than we would ever believe. I also think too.
I think so too. Yeah. Humankind is very resilient when it comes right down to it, and when we're forced by necessity to make certain changes, we're pretty adept at making those changes, and good and bad, right? So,
yep,
I think
we will do it.
I think good stuff is coming.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure which one of us is freezing. You're frozen on my side. I may be frozen on your side.
You're frozen on my side.
There you go. Was I frozen for a second?
Yeah, you were.
Who knows? Yeah, it's just there's ice everywhere. Everybody's frozen. Hey, when you were, you're talking about some of the things you see when you're doing your healing. Do you ever see anything that's just so odd, so different that you can't account for it, that you're just curious what it is?
No, not so much. No, I wouldn't say so. I see, sometimes I'll see colors, but I think I know what those are related to the, energy fields, chakras and such. Generally I can pretty much tell, but I know you have though, huh?
Okay.
Todd, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just getting bits and pieces. There you're moving again. You talked about the chakra colors a second ago, and I meant to ask you, when we pulled that red one out of the construct of 2023, right around the heart chakra area, and then it changed colors. Do you think, as far as your knowledge of chakras is concerned, that meant anything? Or did it even really correspond to a chakra? It just happened to be in that area?
I mean, my initial thing that comes to me when you ask me that question is like normally red is the root chakra, right? Which is associated with security, vitality, that sort of thing, survival, right? And being that it was in the heart, I would say that is symbolic of people keeping their heart kind of oriented around security and survival as opposed to love. Where it makes it challenging for love to be the first and foremost intention or instinct. And so when you go to white with yellow, I would say that maybe if you want to look at it as white is spirit, right? So now your heart is in a place of connection to spirit and oneness, and the yellow is coming from a place of strong individual power, a strong it's a sense of strong individual power that goes with that connection to spirit. So I would say maybe an enlightenment or an invigoration of being able to bring those spiritual sensibilities to the world, as opposed to constantly fighting to survive.
I love that. And I typically don't do interpretations, but I was curious with you. You have a much better background in chakras and those kind of things than I do. But I was hoping that it may make sense that way. And thank you for sharing that with us. I really love the idea of moving more into the spirit on that.
That's what I see. And then the baby blue, that's kind of, to me, that's more associated with your with the voice, and so maybe people speaking more from that space, that space where they're coming from a more spiritual center, and promoting those concepts, connecting with each other, communicating with each other, with those concepts, as opposed to always, just trying to fight to keep your feet under you.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So, Brandon, how do people get a hold of you? That you can help them no matter where they're at. You can do your work with them no matter where they're at. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to contact you?
The easiest way is to go to my website, which is tysonsgifthealing.com. So just like the book, minus the apostrophe, and then with healing on the end. So Tyson's Gift Healing. You can make an appointment with me there. You can. Most of the modalities that I offer are on the website. There's one that I need to update it. It's called Reflective Etheric Healing, and I haven't gotten that up there yet. But most of you can certainly ask me about it if we talk. But you can make an appointment there, or you can also email me, and I can get in contact with you that way. But I would be happy and honored to be able to help in any way I can. But yeah, I'm located in Tallahassee, but the healing is just as powerful in person versus distance. Actually, I would say I've had more remarkable healings from a distance even. Well, I've done a lot more of them because it's a heck of a lot more convenient, but I've also, I've had some pretty remarkable ones from a distance. So there's that. You can also reach me on my other website, which is tysonsgift.com, and that's the book website.
And we're having some more technical difficulties. I'm never sure if I'm being heard or if I'm just a frozen guy. Hopefully I'm not like picking up my nose or something when I freeze and looking weird. And with any luck, we'll have Brandon back, or maybe he's saying with any luck, we'll have Todd back. But I've just got the spinning circle of death on Brandon's side right now. So maybe I'm coming through. It's hard to say.
Uh-oh. All right. Hopefully Todd will be back here in a minute. So yeah, you can reach me through tysonsgifthealing.com or tysonsgift.com. And you can also tune into my show, which is Tyson's Gift the Tyson's Gift podcast, and that airs at 6 p.m. Central on Thursday afternoon or evenings, 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. And Todd, you there?
You're a good boy, Brandon. You kept talking. You kept everything going. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure. I was plugging my stuff.
Absolutely. That's part of the beautiful thing about being a guest on these things is that you get to plug your stuff. So
yeah,
good job with that. Yeah, all of a sudden I was just gone and I wasn't sure which one of us was frozen. And
my buddy in California texted me and said it's him, it's not you. So.
Of course it's me. Oh crap. I don't know if this is going to get any better. I guess if it does that to us again, we might look at ending this a little early. Just terrible conditions right now. I can't even describe the storm that I'm in. It's horrible. But this part of the country needs more water. So, as long as it continues past Oregon and into towards the Midwest, it's well worth it. But I will look at getting a different type of setup definitely for the next one. Brandon, I'm glad you got your information out, so that's good. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was, we found that distance doesn't mean anything, and even science has proven this, that atoms can send a message to each other from gigantic distances apart faster than the speed of light. It's almost simultaneous that they can transfer that information. And I believe that's what's happening when we tap into energy and we tap into spirit. We're at a place where distance doesn't matter. It's like we're there, and wonderful things can happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when one of the intuitives that I've worked with a number of times, she put it to me in a way that for some reason it really clicked with me, and maybe this will help some of your viewers. We tend to think of the physical realm, our physical world, as reality, and the spiritual world as like a mystical magic place that only special people that are really tapped in can actually access, or that you're graced with when you finally pass on, and that's it's hard not to think of it like that. I mean, we're conditioned to think of it like that. But the way she put it to me was that in this physical reality, we're simply in a physical dimension or spirit. We're actually, no, that's not how she put it. She said, this is a spiritual dimension. The astral plane is another spiritual dimension. So we're in a spiritual dimension, just like every other soul that maybe isn't incarnated right now. We're just in a different vibration. But the key is, and you think of it like that, it takes some of the magic away from it, which I think is a good thing, because the reality is that, it's magical and it's beautiful, but it's also very real and very, really tangible if you tap into it. And so we as spiritual beings, although our bodies are in our minds and spirits are generally oriented around the vibration in the physical plane, we as spiritual beings have the ability to vibrate at a higher rate and tap into those other planes of reality. So I think if you think of it in those terms, it's just us simply connecting to what's already there,
Yes.
But it's hard to. I think someday in the not so distant future, this will become something that we, as a species, as a consciousness, will be keenly aware of. It'll be something that's common knowledge for most people, where we're all tapped into that.
And I look forward to that day. I think that's going to change so much. The energy is going to move better. The opportunities for our development will just fire. It's going to go like crazy, and that's a really exciting prospect for us.
Yeah, I think it's already really, it's started already. I think it's much more. Mm-hmm. It's progressed. It's hard for me to tell because I've met so many people because of my pursuits, but I certainly am a lot more aware of it going on around me than I was 4 years ago.
And people are much more open. You look at if somebody would have started talking about Reiki 30 years ago, there was a lot of deaf ears towards it at best. Most and many people would have made fun of it. where now there's very few people making fun of it. There's a lot of people interested in it, and it's moving towards the norm. There's a lot of things out there that used to be weird. You know, when I was growing up, if you talked about Bigfoot, you were weird. If you talked about spaceships and aliens, you were weird. If you talked about energy healing, you were weird. And now people want to be around that. I'm still weird, but society doesn't realize it anymore.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. You think about extraterrestrials like in the 80s. Like, I'm a little lot younger than you, but you think like about when ET came out. The people's awareness of the possibility of ETs being out there was it. It was kind of a fantasy. Even after the movie came out, it was, certainly it was still a fantasy. That's all it was. It was just fantasy. Whereas now, I think, I can't remember. I heard a statistic not too long ago, but it was, the majority of the population thinks that there's ETs out there at this point. So
I just saw something about 70% of the population believes that there are ETs. I honestly, I would have thought it'd be a little higher, but 70% is a pretty substantial number.
Yeah, I wonder where the other 30% live. Probably in Utah.
That's definitely 25% of them. And before anybody thinks we're bashing Utah, that's where my home is. I'm a Utah guy. It's okay. That was just a little tease towards me, not the state.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good, very good. So, what would you like to see happen over the next year, Brandon? What in a perfect world for you, what changes would you like to see over the next year? We've kind of touched on it, but what would you like to see change spiritual wise, along the kind of work that we do? What would you like to see?
Well, I think I would just like to see it continue, if people's awareness to continue to open, these concepts, the concepts of eternal life, and our connectedness to one another, and our connecting whoa, I'm tongue tied there. Connectedness to our past loved ones, energy healing, all that stuff. I would like I would like to see more of the normalization of it, because I really think that as this progresses, you're going to see it is going to improve things. I also think it's going to really help people to wake up to, to shut down. I mean, and that's all light, and that I want that to bring people peace. But I think the benefit to all that is that it will make people more aware of the corruption and some of the darkness that goes on around us as well. And make people much less inclined to buy in, and much more inclined to resist that sort of thing and promote the light. And so I just like to see it keeping that going in that direction. I think, like you said, I think we are going in that direction. And I think ultimately there's a snowball effect occurring where, cause like we're all connected. There is oneness. And so the more it builds, the more it builds. Right.
Yes.
I think we're on I think the way things are progressing right now, I think there's going to be exponential changes occurring over the next few, year. I've kind of stopped trying to predict, because I think it's going to happen now, and then it doesn't happen, but it keeps moving in that direction, at least from what I can perceive. And so that's what I would like to see. I'd like to just to see it keep going that way, because I think we as a society, as a consciousness, will take care of the light. We will promote the light as it does.
Yes. And I think that's what it's all about, is we need to promote the light and shine the light on the questionable things, and let people make a decision on those. move on. It's time for us to grow up as a society and to evolve. And I'm really excited about what the next 2 to 10 years will bring as far as enlightenment and energy and focus. Really excited about where we're heading.
Yeah, and I think the main theme there is that, well, one, love, because with this comes the consciousness of love and opening our hearts up to one another and connecting that way. But with that, equally important is with that love comes less fear. With that knowledge of connectedness comes less fear, and because that and the less fear then promotes more love, right? You think about when you're out and about and you feel animosity towards another person. For me, it's usually when I'm driving, because the people, if you've ever driven in Tallahassee, it's people are not very, very good drivers here. And that's when I become hostile. If I do, it's usually when I'm driving. But that really, it's fear, right? It's fear that I'm going to get that somebody's going to drive their car into me, or that they're going to overreact to something or whatnot. And when you don't have that fear, and you just see the person as a fellow soul, that love is naturally comes out. And so I think that with the spiritual enlightenment will come a decrease in fear, which will promote love and connectedness. And the love and connectedness will promote a decrease in fear. So I think it's just one continuous cycle of, I think it's going. At this point, I don't think there's anything that can slow it down. I think it's a train that's just picking up momentum.
Yes. Something that hits me as you're talking is, as I do the work with people, I find things on them. Some are companions. The companion started out as something that helped them, that now is holding them back for whatever reason. And those are good, positive things. They started with a positive intent. And then something else I find not as often are parasites. And those things started with a negative intent. And I'm positive that many of those parasites, the negative thought, the negative thing that it started with, road rage. You think about how many people are just wound up driving. And so about 3 or 4 months ago, I did a polymedella for road rage, and it's changed my life. It's going to be in the second book. I'm going to send you the breakdown of it, just like I send you notes when we work with people. I'll send you that polymedella, and I think on next week's show, I'm going to read that polymedella to everybody so they know what I'm talking about. But it has absolutely changed the way I drive, the way I look at things. And you talk about fear, fear that they might hit us, fear, whatever. My fear was that they'd get in front of me and slow me down. It was those kind
there's that too. There's certainly that too.
Yeah, I was crazy. And I'm wondering how many of those horrible, horrible thoughts I had while I was road raging. Now, I never tried to drive anybody off the road or get out and beat them up or anything, but if they heard the things I was screaming at them or thinking in my head, and I know some of those things, that energy had to have gone out and become a parasite, whether on me or other people. So I'm really working at getting rid of that, and I can actually drive without losing it now.
I picture you. I picture you like in the scene where in A Christmas Story when Ralphie finally beats up the bully. That's my picture.
Yeah, very, very similar. And I just watched that. I absolutely love that movie. I watched it, and then I watched the new one. They've got one that just came out this year. It's on HBO Max. Yeah. And it starts kind of slow, but then I really enjoyed the second half of it. It's definitely not up to the Christmas Story level, but what is? That's just one of a generation movie that just kind of hit everybody in the right place. But yeah, I'm afraid you're right. I think there's a lot of Ralphie coming out in me when I drive. So I am working on that, and I don't want to cause any more parasites. I don't want to be the cause of any of those.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. One of at Delphi, one of the instructors always points out that how what, watch what you say and think, and or ask yourself, how is what you're saying and thinking making the world a better place?
Yes.
Because what you think and say are things. They actually have energy and power, and so being conscious of that can help make a difference. I'm completely guilty of it myself. I'm not always in that space. I'll admit that. I try to be, but you
Hmm.
know, it's not always easy. It's funny too, because I just to give not an analogy, but just an illustration of how goofy the driving range is in reality. So yesterday I went for a hike and in here in Tallahassee, and in the Bay Area, unfortunately, the San Francisco Bay Area, some people are friendly, like when you're out on a hike, but a lot of people they won't even make eye contact with you when they're walking by you, or uh, here, every single person I crossed paths with, they all said hello.
Yeah.
They all, every single one of them, and and me to them, it was really cool. I mean, but when you're driving, I mean, that's the funny thing. In general, but especially on a hike, I think people feel a certain kinship with their fellow man when they're out walking on the trail, and you're out there trying to enjoy some fresh air too. You have something in common right away, right? And so there's that breakdown of fear, because you feel cohesion with the person, and that love comes out for the other person. You acknowledge them and say hello. But even in the store, you go into a coffee shop, people are friendly with each other. They're cordial,
Yeah.
right? Just in general. But when you're driving, you would, they're not, it's a whole other ball game. And that,
Yeah.
and it's sad, because, the thoughts come out when you're driving, like you said, but when you're actually interfacing and interacting with the person and exchanging energy in that interaction, love comes out, and that's
Yes.
the instinct. But when you're driving, that fear factor comes out, and what does it do? So fear is the key to breaking that. Fear is the key, and love is the answer to that. That's my saying today.
That is awesome. And I didn't realize how much of that, the fear got into it, because, I guess I was afraid somebody was going to do something that would cost me, 30 seconds on my drive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I need to be a much better human being and really set a better example. And it's shocking how much better I've been since I did that polymedella. So I'm going to share that with everybody next week, and I'll send you a copy of it probably tomorrow, so you can see what I'm talking about.
Can you poly my Medela too?
I hope so. I hope that you tap into that energy. That's what these are designed for, is to help many people, and it doesn't matter when.
Yeah.
Hopefully a lot of people were helped when I did the original. And then I hope everybody that's involved in it in the future feels that same energy and can make that change. So that's the whole idea, when we poly our Medela, is to make that change and make things better.
Maybe you could do one on the airlines. That could be
that needs to be addressed. It's getting a little crazy on the airlines.
Not just I haven't had any bad luck as far as the way people behaved, but just the flights being canceled and all that crazy stuff. It's like, it's hard, and that does create rage.
Yes. Yep, it does, and it's unfortunate. We forget that we're dealing with people. Being in retail, I sometimes have to remind people when they're throwing a fit, because a price was 17 cents different than what they were rang up. That you're talking to a human, and the words you're using are not something that you should say to a human. So we can continue as humans, or we can stop. It's your choice. And
Good for you.
that people have been taught that the bigger the fit they throw at a restaurant or in a retail establishment, the more they'll get, which is the opposite of the way it works. When somebody's yelling and throwing a tantrum, I don't have all my resources available. I'm looking to defend myself, not finding something for them. The people that come to me and are gracious and are nice and those kind of things, they get a lot more than the people that are throwing a tantrum and calling me names and questioning my history and all those things. And so, one last thing on that is, remember, guys, when you're in long lines and there's not enough cashiers or there's not enough people working at the restaurant, so you're waiting extra time for your food, don't get mad at the people that showed up. The people that are there actually showed up. The reason they're behind is for the people that didn't show up. So don't get mad at the ones that did. You're getting mad at the wrong people.
And they're working extra hard in the process because of it.
Exactly. So don't get mad at them. And having said that, I think we're about done here. Is there anything that you would like to talk about before we head out, Brandon?
No, I guess one more time I can give the plug.
Yes.
TysonsGiftHealing.com if you'd like to have a healing with me or just check out what I offer. TysonsGift.com, the book. And my show, I'd love it if we probably have like-minded people that tune into our shows. If you'd like to check out my show, the Tyson's Gift Podcast, it airs at 6 p.m. Central on Thursdays on WLTK-DB.com, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Todd and I will periodically be on each other's shows, so you can catch us both on both. So I hope you'll check it out. I hope you'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure. And Sue, I look forward to seeing you on next week's show. It's going to be a good one. I just love the interaction. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to read these comments and stay in the flow of things, but they're wonderful. Thank you for everybody that sends the comments to us. It's a lot of fun to read it and have that interaction. So thank you. Thank everybody that was on today and everybody that will be on in the future. And those of you that watch this in a month or 10 years on YouTube, I thank you for being here as well. And Brandon, as always, it's been a blast. I have multiple pages of notes like I always do when we talk, because you really fire up my imagination and get my brain going. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I have that impact on somebody.
You do. And just before we go, it's time for my shameless plug. I'm going to talk a little bit about going to slipstreamshaman.com, looking at what's there. If you want to order the book, Slipstream Shaman, you can get it through there or go straight to Amazon. And then I would also encourage anybody that's on Instagram to follow me, Slipstream Shaman on Instagram. And that's where all the new things will be as we put out a new polymedella or a new video. It always hits there first to let people know about it. So again, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see everybody next week on Slipstream Shaman, Quantum Healing and Beyond. Thank you, Todd. Other Todd, please take us away.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.